Hello. So this is my movie review for Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. I do not care for this movie, and it's a bit of a controversial statement because of all the Harry Potter movies, this one seems to be the most divisive. You either love it or hate it. There's few people in the middle maybe, but not really. And I happen to be in the group of people who do not like it, and in this video I'm going to give my reasons. There will be some compliments scattered throughout this video. It's not going to be completely negative, but I'm going to be pretty harsh on it. So let's jump in. The first thing I'm going to talk about is my biggest compliment, something that was amazing about this movie. This is the only Harry Potter movie that I really feel took advantage of this amazing magical world. It's just so vast and whimsical and imaginative, and I feel like in a visual medium you could really play with that and immerse your audience in a brand new, fascinating world. All of the other Harry Potter movies do feel pretty blockbuster. They're very familiar. This movie is much more singular and original and quirky. And another thing along those lines that is so unique about it is that all of the other movies very much feel like they are just an interpretation of the books on screen. This one feels like a true movie. It's very cinematic. He took advantage of the movie medium. One of the ways that he took advantage of the cinematography was giving us the layout of the grounds in the school, giving us that sense of space, and also he really leaned into the theme of time, showing the clock throughout the movie and making that very apparent, and just really utilizing angles and cameras and really immersing you in this world and giving you a good time with the camera. And of course, very artistic shots, like the camera being pulled into the mirror on the Bogart wardrobe and then throwing you off by becoming the actual reality of the class. It's all very intriguing and interesting, and it's something that is fun to do playing around with the camera. And here's really one of the obvious and frequent things that he did that kind of puts his signature on it a little bit, is he kept the camera movements very fluid. All throughout the movie, the camera is moving. There are many more moving shots, I think, than there are still shots. And that is something unique that you don't always see all the time. Another camera move you see all throughout it is this zoom up, where instead of it being just a still shot on someone's face talking or whatever, it's always pulling in towards them. You see that a lot through the movie. And then the last one, which is very specific and iconic, are the long shots, is where the camera turns on and stays on for a significant amount of time without any cuts and covering a lot of space and multiple pieces of dialogue. And this is all throughout the movie. And so it is really cool that he was able to present this project to us with that unique style. With that said, that is actually one of my biggest problems of this movie. Anytime I watch this movie, the term that always comes to my mind is art project. I feel like he treated this like an art project. It really comes across as all he wanted to do was make a unique film that really was his signature, and not necessarily thinking of it as being part of a long series that it would fit into the whole thing. It really just stands out and is not coherent with the whole series, and that's kind of obnoxious. And with this coming across as an art project, I feel like things that should have been important were just not his priority. A lot of the lore and rules and characters in the story just didn't matter. Like Harry doing magic outside of school in the very first scene gives you a really bad first impression. Because it mentions later on, and they acknowledge it, that doing magic outside of school is a bad thing and is supposed to have consequences.
I broke the law. Underage wizards aren't allowed to use magic at home.
It makes me immediately question if he respects the material at all. He says in behind the scenes that he really wanted to serve the material and really focus on characters, but I honestly don't get that at all. The characters very much seem to go secondary to the art. He did do a good job of establishing layouts and locations. Continuing to cut back to the Whomping Willow is a smart choice for two reasons. It establishes it as part of the story, something to pay attention to, so when it comes in at the end, it's not a surprise. And this movie takes place over many, many months, and it shows the changing of the seasons with it, which is an easy way to get that message across, so that's smart. One of the decisions he had to make and a design he had to come up with really put him in a pickle, and that is the Dementors. how to portray them, how to get them across on screen, because in the books, it describes it as making you feel cold on the inside. Something happening to you personally, not externally making everything physically cold. That is not what she meant in the books. But it is a way to get it across in a physical medium on screen. And once again, something that I can imagine would be very hard to portray on screen is how it sucks the happiness out of you emotionally and how you feel it. And on screen, how he decided to do that, I hate how it looks. Because the motion of how he made it look like they are being sucked towards the Dementor, to me, that's how I visualized it, sucking your soul out. That's the extreme to me. And so I hate how that looks. And then how they make the soul getting sucked out is just this little ball orb light thing that just pops out of your mouth. What in the world? What kind of decision was that? I understand that this was a hard thing they would have to try and work around, but that just seems like such a bizarre choice. Another pickle that they were in is how to depict the Patronus charm. In the books, it is supposed to be an animal that represents you, and in this movie, it's this weird shield thing? What? Why? It's two completely different things, being a shield and having an animal. I feel like they don't explain it very well either. At the end, he does this big shield, great, but then there's a stag just chilling there? The stag doesn't even charge down the Dementors like it does in the book. It seems like such a separate thing that's just not connected. I don't like that at all. The Patronus is supposed to be an extension of you, and I think that shield thing is just so silly. But once again, I understand that it was a pickle. How do you really put that across on screen? In your mind's eye, you can imagine how it would be having this kind of vapor animal coming out of your wand. But I just don't like how the Patronuses came across on screen at all. And then let's talk about his style choices. Visually, the first thing I have to mention is it is so dark. And with the lighting, there's a lot of harsh lighting that makes it almost just black and white, giving it a very hard contrast. And the color, where the heck is the color? This movie is so drained in saturation. It's definitely a choice. I mean, whatever. It's not terrible, I guess. It's just very interesting to me. And I don't think really complements the Harry Potter world. I feel like it should have more color and vibrancy. And another decision that he made that comes across through the whole movie that I really just don't like is it very often feels so cartoony. Really disconnects you from being able to relate to it. So over the top, dramatic, cartoony. There are so many examples. Well, like one of the bad ones is like when Hermione grabs Harry during the Whomping Willow scene. So silly. And that scene is so stupid. I don't like the cartoony nature of a lot of the movie. Another thing to mention is the moving pictures on the walls at Hogwarts. I actually love it in some respects. I felt like in the first two movies and future movies, they are too stagnant. But in this one, I think he does get a little carried away. It does become kind of chaotic and noisy. I think he took it a little too far. And then there are some of the things that were designed for this movie. Some good, but a lot that I didn't like. Personally, I don't like the design of the Marauders map. Pretty sure I'm in the minority there. But I don't know. I just don't like how it came together. Again, a pickle that they were put in. In the book, these tiny little dots with names next to them, you can imagine it in your mind's eye, but how do you execute that on screen? But I think they went too far with having it this big, elaborate banner. What is it supposed to look like when all the kids are out of classes and like roaming the hallways? That would be so chaotic. And it being the little footsteps, how clever, how artistic, but once again, it doesn't make sense. It would look so chaotic on the map and it wouldn't be helpful at all. The design of the firebolt is stupid. Most people can agree on that. It's ridiculous, doesn't look fast whatsoever. It's just as bad as the end shot of the movie in which he's riding it on, which once again is universally disliked. That shot is so bad. I do not like the shrunken head that's on the bus and in Hogsmeade, and most people don't like that either. And it's just creepy and ugly to look at. I didn't like the shrunken heads. Strange choice to make the Boggart transformations to be no less scary than the actual Boggarts. They're just as creepy. Why? And then let us talk for a moment about the design of the werewolf. I know that I am not alone on this. The design of the werewolf is so weird. Why did they make it look like that? I think he was just trying to make this art project really unique and make this werewolf stand out from other movies. But seriously, if I saw that in the wild for the first time, I would call it a were-rat. I wouldn't think that that's a wolf. They took it too far and it looks stupid. Now I'm going to talk about another topic, which is so many things that he changed from the other movies. Because more than any other movie, he did not keep it consistent and coherent with the other movies to make it feel like one continuous world. His really stands out as being so different because he made so many changes to established things. Some of the casting choices, like Tom the innkeeper in Diagon Alley, why is he suddenly a hunchback? And why is he suddenly stupid, just as comic relief? Why? And changing the fat lady to the entrance to the Gryffindor common room. First off, she's not wearing pink anymore, which is one of her defining traits, but she's just obnoxious and takes up way too much screen time. It makes no sense. Another one of the changes that is just one of the biggest irritations to me is how he changed the clothing and that's the style of those sort of things to be so modern. The school uniforms he changed, just the normal kind of clothing that he changed looks so much more modern and normal and muggly than it does whimsical and unique wizardy. One of the only character-ish changes he made that I actually do like is Harry's hair. He actually made it messy, like the book. That's basically the only movie that it actually looks messy, and that's nice. The Whomping Willow looks completely different. The layout of the grounds looks completely different. It was just annoying to me that there were things that already worked that he just completely changed to make this art project unique for him. And the biggest problem I have with things he changed from the established movies is the wands. Why do they look like that? Why are they so personalized now? It doesn't make any sense. Why would they look that way in the shop? They made them to reflect the characters when that's not how wands work. It seems so backwards. It shouldn't be the wand fitting the person beforehand. That doesn't seem like an organic relationship. And a lot of them seem very, suspicious. A lot of those villain wands look incredibly villainous. You'd think that Ollivander would have a hard time selling those because there would be some worry about who they're going to. And it's funny, there are special features that say how one of J.K. Rowling's only complaints on the first movie, design-wise, was she said the wands looked too ornate. And goodness gracious, if she thought those ones looked too ornate, I don't know how she feels about these wands. That then carried through all of the movies. Anyway, I don't know if I articulated that very well, but it really bothers me, first off, how they changed the wands and what they changed the wands to look like. I get that they wanted them to be more identifiable. Like in the 7th book, Ollivander is able to identify the wands of those different characters just on sight. And so it makes sense that they would be very original and unique. But I feel like they could have been more unique without being so ornate. A good example of what the wands could have looked like are like the wands on Hogwarts Legacy, where they are all still very rough and wood looking but very unique. I could get behind maybe them being unique in the way that they would be altered after owning them. So maybe they could be different colors in the way that they might have painted or bleached or something like that. Or if they carved symbols or names or something into them. I don't know, changes like that or something like that. I could get behind. I could imagine that. But for them to be so specialized beforehand seems weird, and I don't like it. Another thing I gotta talk about is how rushed this movie feels. Something good about the quick pace is it does make it feel like there is not a minute wasted. Every moment of the movie feels productive and fun, but I do feel like it is just too fast, and that compromises a lot of the story points, I think. Like towards the beginning when Arthur tells Harry about Sirius Black, it just seems a little bit out of nowhere and a lot of story and important stuff getting delivered very quickly, very early. And when Lupin is a teacher at Hogwarts, it seems very sudden that him and Harry start hanging out. And especially hanging out away from school. Because in the books, they get a relationship, but kind of over time. And I feel like if they were going to hang out, especially in such a fast-paced movie, it would be in the castle, which would be a little bit more organic. Maybe they bump into each other. But for them to be out on the grounds and these farther away places just seems really weird, very sudden. I don't feel like they set that up very well. And real quick, while I'm on the topic of this, that when they're on the bridge, it feels so weird to me how Lupin brings up Lily. I've never heard anyone talk about this, but to me it seems really strange that he spends so much more time reminiscing about Lily than he does any other character, and speaking about her very kind of lovingly and just very sentimental. Seems really strange and feels weird to me. Another part that seems rushed is when Harry learns about Black and all of that information in Hogsmeade when he's overhearing the conversation that the minister and the teachers and everyone is having. Let me list off here all the things that Harry learns in the 1 minute 10-second scene. He learned that Black knew where they were and told Voldemort that he killed Peter Pettigrew, that they knew each other, and that Sirius killed Peter, and that his finger was left, and that Sirius is his godfather. That is a lot of pretty crucial information to learn in that short amount of time. I feel like it should have been given a little bit more time to breathe so that we could absorb it a little bit more and just make it feel more organic. It feels weird that how it's just rushed out there real fast. And the talk that they have in the Shrieking Shack towards the end is way too fast. More on that later. Next thing I want to talk about is the music of the movie. Music is very important for a movie. It's something that makes the medium unique. You don't have that in a book. It is something that is able to give the movie more life and more information and more personality. And so music is very important for a film. So one of the main things I have to say about this is both a compliment and a critique. I feel like the soundtrack has a lot of variety. Personally, for me, it makes it feel like it's just not very coherent. Marge's waltz is nothing like the Night Bus music. Which is nothing like the medieval music played in the castle. Which is nothing like the big band kind of music that Lupin listens to while they're doing the Boggart. Etc., etc. And so I see that as a critique, but that could also be one of the biggest compliments. You can tell that John Williams had a lot more freedom with this soundtrack compared to the first two. And from what I understand, that means that he got a lot better direction. When given good direction, he can have a lot more freedom in his composition, and he does not have the same sort of limits. With this music that he composed, there are a lot of cool orchestrations that are very unique and very magical sounding that make this movie a lot more interesting and magical and whimsical than the other movies. And so there's the pickle that I'm in for the music, that there is such a wide variety. I do want to say, though, that I love the Double Trouble song that the choir sings. It is in the top few tracks of my Halloween playlist that I listen to all the time. It is a great song. This next thing I'm going to talk about is what I call the Hermione problem. And it is a huge problem. Just appearance-wise, I will say, her hair is way too nice. They did a great job in the first two, making it bushy. I understand she can't do the extensions all the time. They said that was really damaging her hair or something. But, come on, you can still, crimp it or something. It's silly that this is the movie that started making it so clean and curly. Don't like that. But now, onto her attitude. She just seems so snobby through the whole movie. Just her lines, how she delivers them, like how she's always telling Ron what to do, calling him Ronald.
It's a cat, Ronald. What do you expect?
It's on a suitcase, Ronald. Don't be silly, Ronald. How could anyone be in two classes at once? Ronald has lost his rat.
Just makes her sound so pretentious. So, and one of the major problems I have about Hermione on screen, this movie and all of them, but this one is so bad, that she just always seems to be on screen. Whenever the subject is the trio, and even not the trio, she is always right there, in frame, behind Harry or whatever. She's always there. I know one of the reasons that she got so much attention is because the writer, Steve Kloves, really loved the character of Hermione, and so I think that's why she does get so much special attention in the movies. And I get the vibe that Alfonso also really favored her. Just watching behind the scenes, it does seem like he really took to her, and so I think she got a lot of attention on set too. All of these things combined just really highlighted her a lot. And this movie, all of the movies are this way, where if they have to choose a friend to say something, Ron or Hermione, it is always Hermione that they choose. It's like it's a line that could go either way and they always give it to Hermione. Ron is never given that chance. Now, I get it. The second movie was Ron's, right? The Chamber of Secrets. Him and Harry went down and they had that adventure together with the spiders and everything. And this movie, Ron's in the hospital wing instead of Hermione, and she is out doing the adventure with him. So I get that. But they did not have to walk all over Ron just to highlight her. They totally ruined Ron in this movie. It's hard to believe that he would have been sorted into Gryffindor with how they portray him in this. He's just the comic relief and they make him stupid.
He's my rat, sir. He's not really a rat. Oh, well, he was a rat. He was my brother Percy's rat. But then they gave him an owl.
The point is, we know the truth.
And so much of this is the character of Hermione's fault. There are so many lines that are Ron's in the book that they give to Hermione.
The hooded creature had vanished. What happened? Where's that thing? Who screamed? No one screamed, said Ron more nervously still.
But someone was screaming. A woman.
No one was screaming, Harry.
And then the most famous one, the most atrocious one, is when they're in the Shrieking Shack and they gave the line to Hermione of them defending Harry.
No, Harry, Hermione gasped in a petrified whisper. Ron, however, spoke to Black. If you want to kill Harry, you'll have to kill us too, he said fiercely.
If you want to kill Harry, you'll have to kill us too.
And then, of course, another example of just making Ron look stupid when he should have looked strong.
That is the second time you have spoken out of turn, Miss Granger, said Snape coolly. 5 more points from Gryffindor for being an insufferable know-it-all. Hermione went very red, put down her hand, and stared at the floor with her eyes full of tears. And Ron, who told Hermione she was a know-it-all at least twice a week, said loudly, You asked us a question, and she knows the answer. Why ask if you don't want to be told?
That is the second time you have spoken out of turn, Miss Granger. Are you incapable of restraining yourself, or do you take pride in being an insufferable know-it-all?
He's got a point, you know.
So there are some of my problems with the character of Hermione that bother me so much. She is so annoying through most of the movies, but this one especially. Now I would like to talk about some of the casting. There are a lot of new faces in this movie. One of the big ones is Michael Gambon. They had to recast Dumbledore regardless with someone, but I have mixed feelings on Michael. He brings energy and spunk of traits that are there for Dumbledore, but like nothing else. He does not seem wise or regal or any of those traits at all. He looks completely disheveled and just eccentric and always scatterbrained and such. He does get better through the series, but the third and even the fourth are not good. Another cast was Trelawney with Emma Thompson. Love Emma as an actress. I don't know, I'm mixed on how she played this part. It's a unique character, it's fun, it's fine, but it's not my favorite. The other big casts in this movie were for the Marauders. For most of them, my biggest critique is that they are just too old. My understanding as to why they cast all these people so old is because they cast Alan Rickman, and these are all supposed to be in the same generation, and that's why all these people are too old. But I find it a little bit obnoxious, but whatever. Peter's great, acts wonderfully as a rat, great performance, but is too old. Lupin is, I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion or not, I'm not sure, but I don't like who they cast, or at least I don't like the performance he gave. To me, it just does not say Lupin. I personally don't like how kind of nasally his voice is. I just don't think he portrays the character well. And then Sirius. Gary Oldman is an amazing actor, but I don't feel like he played this part well. And might even go as far to say I don't feel like he was the right cast for this part. How Gary Oldman plays the part is like a literal madman. In the books, they describe him as being mad, and how I feel like he played that is literally like an insane person. He acts like he just escaped an insane asylum, where in the books, I always interpreted mad to be like his rage. He is so angry and full of rage that it's making him act crazy. Not that he is literally crazy and insane. Here are some words and phrases that they used in the book to describe how he was acting in the Shrieking Shack. He snarled. He had a roar of rage. He said savagely, his face showed hatred, evil look, mirthless laugh, fathomless eyes. Those make way more sense for interpreting him as acting angry instead of acting crazy. It makes no sense. for two reasons. One is when he acts actually insane, it makes no sense that when he goes, like later when he's with Harry and talking towards the end, why is he so calm and collected? He turns into a completely different character. And when you interpret mad as being angry, it makes perfect sense because he is furious, he is angry at Peter Pettigrew, wanting to have his revenge. That makes way more sense. I don't know if that was his choice or it was probably the director's choice, but I do not think it served the character or the story. And I don't feel like he really looks the part either. Sirius is described as being much more of kind of a bad boy, motorcycle riding, hardcore rock and roll kind of description. And I just don't think this character design really embodies that at all. I also don't like the look of his animagus form. Some descriptions they use in the book to describe him when he's transformed into a dog are hulking outline of something very big, like a dog but massive, a black dog large as a bear. Yeah, that's not what we got in the movie. In the movie, he looks so wimpy and skinny. He does not look imposing or scary at all. I don't like the design of him as a dog. Now I want to talk a little bit about the Marauders specifically. They cut them so much in the movies, almost completely. Let me list off for you some of the stuff they forgot to mention in the movie about the Marauders. That they were the authors of the Marauders map, that there is a secret keeper, and that they switched, that all these people were unregistered animagus, whatever, that it was Lupin that haunted the Shrieking Shack and that the Whomping Willow was planted because of him, and they don't explain that they became the animals to help Lupin, and they never mention how James is the stag, and that connection between him and Harry, and that Snape knew them at school and that James saved his life. They don't mention that. How Peter made the explosion and hid, how Crookshanks knew Sirius, how Sirius escaped. I feel like those are pretty big story points that are important to this movie and later on through the whole series, and it upsets me that they left them out. Though, I will acknowledge, this is another pickle that they were in. In the book, where most of that information is given, that Shrieking Shack scene is 38 pages long. Now the thing with a movie is you kind of have to keep things going, you have to keep it visually interesting, and a bunch of people standing around and talking isn't very interesting. In a book, that's super easy to do. You don't mind just sitting there and reading a bunch of people talking. And so I realized they had to come up with a solution for that, and what they seem to have decided on is just shortening it way down. The Marauders were not the focus of this movie. That wasn't important to the storyline that they decided to tell. This movie is interesting because it is the only book, the only story, that does not end with Voldemort. In every other book, Voldemort is the main antagonist at the end. He's who Harry has to fight or overcome. This one, he's not here. And so, what is the objective? The character of Sirius Black, right? And maybe his connection with Harry, him realizing who he is, and that he has a relationship with him. Maybe that's like the point of the movie. But once again, if so, as I've said, I don't feel like they developed the characters super well. And they cut out so much with Sirius that I feel like they didn't do him justice, and so we don't care about him as much as we could have. I will finish this video, though, reiterating my first compliment. This one actually gave us a film to watch that is fun in itself, is a treat to watch, and a fun adventure to go on. The other movies do seem like they're just like normal blockbuster cash grabs, and this one does seem more like a passion project and a very invested in art project. And so, with all the pickles that are in this movie, it's easy to see why not everyone likes it. I personally don't like pickles, and I don't like this movie, and so that checks out. But if you like it, great, and you can enjoy it. I am envious. I wish I could too. Thank you so much for listening to my rant, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.